For the past several years, transit connections have played a key role in meeting Boston's needs for housing. One example in Mattapan is the plan for 872 Morton Street Village on a piece of long vacant land near a commuter rail station. The mixed income project was recently approved for pre-development financing by the Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation, or CEDAC. To tell us about the development, our CEDAC's executive director, Roger Herzog, and the project manager, Will Morgan. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thanks, Chris.
I'd like to start with Roger about the need for some kind of intervention here to do something that the market itself won't do. These days, as a lot of community groups have told us, in Mattapan, along this whole fairmount-indigo corridor, the market's getting too expensive for many people in the neighborhood. So how does that influence the decision by CEDAC to back this project?
Well, Chris, what you're describing is the very reason that CEDAC was created over 40 years ago. We are a public-private community development financial institution. We were created by state law in 1978 by then state representative and great Boston leader Mel King. And our mission is to support community-based nonprofit organizations who are seeking help in developing their neighborhoods. And Mattapan, as you describe, is a neighborhood that needs assistance. There are gentrification pressures happening in that neighborhood, and a lot of demand for affordable housing. So this new project is a great example of this work.
Well, it's great that this site is very close to a commuter rail station. On the other hand, it's on a steep slope. It's on a busy street, and it's right next to railroad traffic. 30 years ago, people would say, who would want to live there? So isn't this, in a way, a sort of a difficult site to work with?
It can be, but certainly the Planning Office for Urban Affairs and Caribbean Integration Community Development, the two partners working on this project, have experience developing in these types of sites. They're currently under construction on Cummins Highway in Mattapan on a project called Cody Village. It's the old Cody Ford site for those who are familiar with it. That is also directly along the commuter rail tracks and on a slope. And so they have been working with the MBTA and with their structural and site engineers to develop a plan, not only to handle the grading and retainage that's required as part of that, but also with soundproofing, because obviously noise is a consideration. So this is something that they have experience with, and the pre-development assistance that CEDAC has provided to these organizations has allowed them to be able to advance the planning on those drawings.
Roger, one of these two partners is affiliated with the Archdiocese of Boston, and that they have been developing properties for many years. The more recent one, the Caribbean Integration Development Corporation. Can you tell me a little bit about their history?
Sure, I'm going to actually ask Will to respond, but they are a new and emerging nonprofit community development organization that holds great promise. Will, do you want to talk more about?
Caribbean Integration, they're a new nonprofit. They were created about 10 or 11 years ago, led by an amazing individual named Donald Alexis from Haiti. And he has been working with Caribbean immigrants and people of color in Mattapan to create economic vibrancy and economic resiliency, and affordable housing is absolutely part of their mission.
Yeah. Roger, when people talk about affordable housing in Boston these days, it can mean something affordable for renters, even with fairly low incomes. But people are also concerned about wealth creation, closing the racial gap in wealth. How does this project do both of those things?
That's a great question, Chris, and something that we're very pleased that our partners are pursuing here in response to community input through many meetings with community residents. This will be a mixed project that provides both affordable rental and affordable home ownership opportunities. And as you said, the home ownership opportunities, there will be 9 units, will provide those first-time home buyers an opportunity to build equity and get into the home ownership market, even though market prices often make that unattainable.
Well, what CEDAC is providing right now is called pre-development financing. And you tell me a little bit of how much money is involved and what exactly it does?
Yeah, so CEDAC is as you said, a pre-development lender. We have $625,000 committed to this project, to these two organizations so far. And this really helps them get through the planning stages leading up to construction. That process can often cost in excess of $1 million, and there's no guarantee that they will get any of that money recouped until they close on their financing and begin construction. So it is a very risky proposition. And as Roger said, CEDAC was created with the mission of helping nonprofit affordable housing developers in the Commonwealth be able to manage that risk. So we've been pleased to help not only this project, but also Cody Village, and then a third project that these two organizations are working on about a mile away on River Street. So we've been very pleased to be able to support them both with pre-development financing and technical assistance based on our experience with other nonprofits throughout the state.
And Chris, if I could just add one thing to that, and that is the dollars that CEDAC puts into these developments, we're at the early high-risk stage. Much larger public funding comes into these projects from both the city of Boston and from the Commonwealth. And really, we're helping the nonprofits to do the planning for the project, to put together the information that allows them to submit competitive funding applications to the city and the state. And we have a very good track record because we work extremely closely with our city and state partners. The Undersecretary for Housing at the Commonwealth is our board chair. So we very much align our lending with the priorities of state government so that we know, the types of projects that the state is interested in funding.
Roger, I want to ask you about looking beyond one loan for one project here, because we have a market out there with other people, other investor owners maybe who want to get more properties in this area and capitalize on things. But on the other hand, it seems that you're building capacity, especially for a group like Caribbean Integration. How important is this as far as that chain of capacity building?
It is extremely important. Real estate development can be a very complicated undertaking, especially when you layer on many public requirements that come with the funding. And these are requirements that flow not just from HUD at the federal level, but also IRS requirements, because tax credits are a major financing tool that allows us to create these projects. So it takes a lot of experience and skill to be able to successfully develop and manage these properties. What we see in this joint venture between the planning office and Caribbean Integration is really an opportunity for an exchange of skills and a building of capacity. Donald Alexis, the head of Caribbean Integration, is a good learner. He's building the capacity of the organization. He's going to be getting office space in the Cody Village development when that is completed. And we see a very strong future based on the kind of capacity and experience that he's getting through this partnership with the Planning Office for Urban Affairs.
Will, what about the mix of incomes in this development? Because you're combining ownership and rental. So how does that map out?
Yeah, so it's a broad spectrum of income. So it's going to be available to a variety of households, from those who will need rental assistance in order to afford to live here, through those who are making moderate to upper moderate incomes. And that's part of the intent of the community, and the approach here is to ensure that a variety of people and a variety of households are able to live here. The site is close to 4 or 5 Boston public schools, so it's going to be a great opportunity for families with young children to live here, So the development was really designed in hand with the city and the community to make sure that folks of a variety of incomes would be able to afford this site.
Roger, finally, one other possible ripple effect, I imagine, is that if you have more housing units built around this area, if you look at the whole commercial area from roughly, along Morton Street, all the way up to Blue Hill Avenue, what about retail growth, maybe some job growth? Could that be a result too?
Absolutely. I mean, housing is a key part of the overall economic development of the neighborhood. And when families have affordable and stable housing in a neighborhood, it allows them to, buy their goods and services in the neighborhood as well. So there are definite ripple effects. And we're so pleased. This is a very innovative project, both from, as we've described, the structure of the partnership between these two nonprofits, from the structure of the project itself, providing both rental and ownership opportunities, and the support that it's been able to generate at the community level that has really led to assembling the financing so they can get this into construction in the near future.